Good morning and welcome to a beautiful Barber Motorsports Park here for Race 2 in GT America. We are in for Barber Motorsports Park here in Birmingham, Alabama. It has been a season across the country that comes here to Alabama for one more last stop ahead of the Indianapolis 8-hour weekend that will take us there. Guys, it is a gorgeous morning here at Barber Motorsports Park. You remember yesterday's race, there was some unexpected rain that kind of caught out the beginning, but with no clouds in the sky, I know it's going to be an absolute gorgeous day here for racing as we get set for the sprint race here in GT America. You may be taking a look at Mamo Gidley right now. I took a minute to talk to him earlier today. We talked about the craziness of yesterday's race with the rain that happened in the morning. Calvin and Ryan, it was just as unique up there for you guys. Tell me your experience with it.
Oh my goodness, what a race yesterday. Don't normally see pit stops in GT America powered by AWS, but they proved a crucial component in the race yesterday, Calvin, because we had the rain right before the start of this race, which meant it was split the decision whether or not to start the race on wet tires or on slicks. Those that started on slicks, they had to survive for the first half of the race, but ultimately the wet tires couldn't handle the drying track, and everyone who started on the wets had to come into the pits to make the changeover.
Yes, and ultimately it was this car, the Schwest Parvaledo car, the number 50, that scored a victory. As treacherous certainly for Ross Schwest to tippy-toe his way around this racetrack on slick tires, had a spin on the formation lap, but managed to keep it together, and then the race just swung around in his favor. But he did a great job. 2 wins on the bounce now, coming off a great victory at Road America. So they've certainly hit their stride with that Corvette.
No question about it. Really feeling good about where that program stands right now. Here's a look at Kyle Washington, who had a fire lit in his belly yesterday, didn't he? He came on a huge charge through the field, ultimately finished on the podium, but left yesterday feeling like he could have had a little bit more. Excited to see what he can do today.
Yeah, he just overcharged that little chicane there down in turn 8 and 9 and had that bobble, had that spin that let Gidley through, and he also had a 5-second penalty that he was dealing with as well, but was not enough for Rothberg to score more points than him. So he's cutting to that championship lead, is now down to 22 from 25 coming into this weekend.
That will be a story to watch throughout the course of this 40-minute race, which is upcoming. Let's take a chance to head back down pit side and get in with Amanda for some more late-breaking stories on the grid.
Yeah, good morning, Ryan and Calvin, and now I can officially show you. Look at these blue skies down here. I think all of the craziness of yesterday may be behind us as we get set for racing down here. I am standing right behind Ross Schwest, who was able to celebrate that victory yesterday with his 2 daughters who are on hand here this weekend. He also told me that he's feeling so much more accustomed to that Corvette as we get through this season. But unfortunately, I'm standing in a blank space right now. This would be where that 2 of Jason Bell would park here today as we get ready for racing. I did hear from the team that the car is ready. Shall they make it to the race today? But I've also heard that potentially it will withdraw here today. Calvin, you were so complimentary of Jason yesterday and just how sporty he looked out on Barber Motorsports Park. But hate to not see Jason here for the race today, Calvin.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what's going on there exactly. You know, it's a car that got damaged heavily at Road America. The team did a ton of work to get the car ready for this weekend, and I thought Jason's pace was probably the strongest we've seen all season long. They went down a lap with the pit lane stuff going on with the changeover from wet spat to slicks, but he looked really racy yesterday. I was looking forward to seeing him compete today.
Yeah, likewise. This is a look at the championship battle as it stands. It's narrowed up, as you talked about, Calvin, with Justin Rothberg over Kyle Washington. Ross Schwest, on the strength of a couple of wins, has crept into the conversation a little bit, but time's starting to run out for him with just 3 races, including this one, left in the season. Yeah,
it's a narrow gap, and I would say that Rothberg right now is hanging on at this championship lead. He doesn't make mistakes. He continues to score points, but you know, some of these other guys like Washington and Schwest is kind of a dark horse right now for the championship. But if they can continue to hit victory circle, who knows what could happen by the time we get out of Indy.
And there is a battle, of course, for 3rd and 4th in the points with Ross Schwest and Mamo Gidley. Mamo starts on the front row here today alongside the championship leader, Justin Rothberg. That'll be a fun battle to keep an eye on. BMW on the right, the Audi of Gidley on the left. Got a glimpse a moment ago of Tony Davis. That's the HP Tech Motorsports Ferrari making their debut in the championship as a team. Tony as a driver coming from the Ferrari Challenge ranks. Thought he looked pretty strong yesterday, Calvin, and hopefully with a more straightforward race today, he'll have a chance to showcase some more of that pace.
Yeah, his pace looked good. He was very much up the top of the timesheets or towards the top in practice here this weekend. So they've done a ton of testing with that race car, so with them just throwing him out there, which I think is really the right thing to do. If you have the resources, do it. And he had fifth fastest lap yesterday, and that's how we line up on the grid today.
Saw a quote from the team. They're used to running as many as 8 cars on a Ferrari Challenge weekend. So just having
the crews out there today.
That's right. Just having the one car to look after here this weekend is a bit of a relaxing enterprise compared to what they're used to. And they've done a nice job adapting to GT3 racing here for the first time this weekend. Cars starting to roll out onto the racetrack. What a racetrack it is here, Calvin. Opened in 2003, and it is a roller coaster ride, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's got about 80 to 90 feet elevation change, which we've got a circuit which have a lot more than that, of course, but it's in the right places in terms of gives it that nuance, that subtlety, which makes some of these crests very difficult to deal with.
Here's how they'll line up for the final race of the weekend. It is Justin Rothberg on the rover pole position for Turner Motorsport, trying to consolidate that championship lead going into the final weekend of the season in Indianapolis. The veteran Nemo Gidley starts alongside in the front row. Row number 2 belongs to Kyle Washington for GMG Racing, and Ross Schwest, a winner already here this weekend. Look for him to have a strong run once again. Then it's Tony Davis. Jason Bell does not appear to be taking the start here today, which is a shame. So Davis all alone in row number 3. Out back in the 4th row is where you'll find Joel Cortez making his 2nd appearance of the season. But first with RS1. He drove for S's Racing back in Circuit of the Americas, and Farhan Siddiqui also in his 2nd weekend in the GT3 car, having made previous appearances in GT4 in previous weekends. So that's the grid coming to the completion of the formation lap, the first formation lap here at Barber. 40 minutes, a sprint race normally, and I think all these teams will be thrilled that some Mother Nature seems unlikely to intervene. It was a wild one yesterday, just with the nature of the rain shower that came just before the start of the race, and made teams really scramble to make some difficult decisions and then scramble again when it came time to put the dry tires on.
Yeah, and I think you also got some compromises that may have been made in terms of recognizing there's a good chance of rain, so if you soften the cars up, that can then affect the performance of the car once it dries out. Rothberg got that fast lap there. He suddenly came from nowhere and started laying down some laps, so obviously the setup came into his window, and that's given him a great starting point for today's race. I think he really needs to capitalize here. I think he'd love to gain points on Washington, not let it get any tighter heading to the doubleheader at Indianapolis.
And Kyle knows he's got to go, trying to keep pace with Justin Rothberg with just 2 races left in the championship after this one, and the points lead right about at what it pays to win one of these races, just under at 22. It pays 25 to win, so you do the math. Not easy to overcome that kind of deficit if you head into the final couple of weekends with a gap about the same or even bigger potentially should Rothberg win today.
Yeah, I think Rothberg is really savvy. He's got great tutelage from Robbie Foley, who he shares a car with in GT World Challenge America, of course, and Turner Motorsports. They've been around for a long time. So they'll be looking at the big picture for Washington. He's going to have his elbows out. He'll line up directly behind Rothberg when we get the green flag here. So let's see if he gets antsy. He's got to stay in line, obviously, until you get to the start-finish line before he can attempt to move. So he's got to factor that into the equation as well for the start.
This has not been a track that has been particularly kind to Justin Rothberg over the last couple of seasons. Last year in GT America specifically, finished runner-up from pole in race 1, but only managed 5th in race 2. He was 4th yesterday, did have the fastest lap of the race. And last year, those 2 finishes of 2nd and 5th meant he went into Indy with a big points gap to try and make up. He won both races from pole position, but still came up 1 point short in the championship, so he knows how every point matters in a series like this.
Yeah, essentially that 5th place finish here kind of thwarted that championship charge. Would have come up a point short, wasn't it, at the end of the day?
Exactly. I think the top 3 in points were separated by just 4 points a year ago. Safety car heading towards the pit lane, which means the pole sitter Justin Rothberg has the field under his command. Memo Gidley to the outside in the Ski Autosports Audi. Rothberg crowding him a little bit, forcing him to the outside of that final corner. Now they head to the front straightaway in good alignment, looking for the green flag that will get today's race underway. There's the look from the flag stand as the green flag waves, and for the anti-penultimate time, the race is on at GT America here in 2025. Good getaway from Rothberg. Washington really stymied on the start. It's Ross Schwest getting his elbows out early and often in the number 50 Corvette, side by side with the Porsche headed down the hill.
Yeah, Washington there just really had to be circumspect with his moves there, and that allowed Schwest to get that run around the outside and the inside for the upcoming corner, turn 2. Washington now looks down to the inside, late on the brakes. Tire temps aren't where they need to be. Schwest gives him a little bit of racing room. Power down, laying down rubber here off of turn 5. It's a drag race.
These two have battled mano a mano in GT4 competition over the years. Here they find themselves in GT3. They'll try and make it work too wide, heading down to the museum complex in Washington. Able to make it work in a very brave maneuver around the outside.
Yeah, he knew he had to make it stick there. Beautiful piece of driving there by Kyle Washington, as we said. A little bit cooler here today, but tire temps are rapidly coming up as you get some energy here through these big, fast corners here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Well, he'll have his head down now. He knows he's got to get going and chase down Memo Gidley to get to second and then start to put the pressure on Rothberg or risk losing further ground in the championship. Pretty stout start, though, from Ross Schwest, who has been in fine form over the last couple of weekends.
He certainly has. Had a little bobble in the early stages of the GT World Challenge America race, hit the barriers, who didn't see the checkered flag yesterday, but he's got a lot of confidence. Spoke to Aaron Povolato this weekend. They've really ramped up their whole program over the last 12 months, got some new staff on board and really starting to fire on all cylinders and understand this Corvette chassis.
I saw Aaron this morning, and he proudly introduced me to some of those newcomers on the team. Wow, big moment there for Washington. He's pushing maybe a little bit too hard there as he's now vulnerable once again to Schwest.
Look at the grass on the front end of the radiator. That could be an issue. It looks like he packed that pretty good. I think we caught that moment late with him dragging the car back onto the racetrack. Look at that. Look at the grill, completely covered in grass.
It's not super hot yet this morning, but cooling so important, and that is nearly comprehensive in terms of the coverage on the front of that car.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be really tough. Think about the championship implications with Rothberg leading right now.
Needs to hang as tight as possible to at least mitigate the damage. This is what happened. Oh, little twitch, ends up off track, and that splitter just scoops up the grass clippings outside of the corner.
It's a good catch, but residual damage of the radiator being packed right now could be a big, big problem.
We'll see what Kyle elects to do. For now, he stays on the racetrack, but they'll be keeping a close eye on the telemetry on that 32 car from the GMG Racing pit stand.
Going to give it more downforce.
Joel Cortez with a big off and on in the background. He too has packed the radiator of his Porsche. It's a frightening moment there for Joel. Another good save though. Native of Mexico, making just his second appearance in the championship here this weekend. Good to see RS1 expanding their program beyond what they've been doing at GT World Challenge this year.
Yeah, always turn out great race cars. They got top engineering staff there. They know how to dial in these Porsches. Cars look immaculate as ever. As you said, great to see Joel back.
Owns the Pro Dynamics Tire Company in his native Mexico. Very passionate racer.
Ooh. See Ross Schwest there eat up all of that curb, nearly ran out of road on the exit. We talk about how precise you have to be at a very technical racetrack, and if you get it wrong a little bit in the preceding corners, that has big consequences in the next one.
And a little glimpse inside the cockpit there for Tony Davis. He's got the white gloves, which were frantically going back and forth. Talk about this racetrack and the challenge. There's no straightaways to rest, and even in these corners, you're constantly working that wheel, making small little corrections to keep the car pointed the way you want it.
I think, is Washington hit pit lane?
Yep.
I don't see him there. There he comes. Had to come. I mean, that was absolutely packed. He's going to see soaring temperatures. This is huge in the championship right now. Championship leader Rothberg leads. 22 points behind coming in was this man.
GMG crew ready to go with the blower as well as the hands just to clear that grill. And now Kyle Washington, much delayed, Well, hope for a safety car intervention to bring him back into the fight, because he has dropped all the way down to 7th.
Yeah, that's going to be massive in the points. It's only, what, 6 points? Could be a 19-point swing. Could be almost 40 heading to Indianapolis for the championship lead of Rothberg if he continues to lead this race.
Kyle Washington has just turned into a giant Mamo Gidley fan. He would love to see Mamo get up there and challenge Rothberg and maybe take the maximum points away from his championship rival. In the meantime, here's Ross Schwest trying to hang on to the final step of the podium. Currently sits in 3rd, but Tony Davis would love a trophy here in his debut in the championship.
Yeah, he's looking really strong here. That Ferrari looks to be dialed in. Good to see a new team in our championship with big aspirations for next year with maybe multiple cars.
Hearing there might have been a problem for Farhan Siddiqui, who runs in 6th. He's dropped quite a ways behind the train he had been running with, and that's the cause of it.
Yeah,
whoa.
There he is. Tricky approach to those final couple of corners. You kind of really got the car up on its toes a little bit as you're trying to continually turn the race car, and if you got a bit too much braking pressure, you just lose the rear end of the car.
And here's Justin Rothberg, the leader of the race. This result, should it stand, especially with Kyle Washington's struggles, would go a long way to him entering the Indianapolis weekend feeling confident that the championship is within his grasp. Giving chase, though, is the veteran Mamo Gidley. What a talent, what a great team behind him as well with Ski Autosports. I think they very well could have won the race yesterday if not for that rain. This is a team that is not used to doing pit stops, and they were pressed into service rather unexpectedly with the rain and then the track drying out, and lost a little time to their competitors as a consequence.
West is really feeling the pressure here from Davis. He's looking vulnerable right now. A lot of time still left on the border course for that Ferrari to go to work with. This is where Siddiqui lost. It's just really tough. You're climbing the hill, you're braking and turning at the same time, just trying to, it's really the blending coming off the brake pedal, squeezing back the power. That's the transition phase where it's really critical you don't get too abrupt with those inputs.
Graduates from Ferrari Challenge Racing. Ross Schwest now aboard the Corvette, which he seems to love. Team making the switch to the GM product for this season. Meanwhile, Tony Davis, Ferrari Challenge champ back in 2022, Trofeo Pirelli AM class. Race Vision powered by AWS. Best first sector, unsurprisingly, belongs to Rothberg. But how about Joel Cortez? Second best time through the sector, and then here comes Tony Davis, 3rd best through sector 1, and right now heaping the pressure on Ross Schwest, trying to take 3rd place away.
Yeah, and we're just talking about hundredths of a second that Davis is behind Rothberg's fast first sector, so he's really got that car dialed in and doing a great job behind the wheel as well.
Into sector 2, Rothberg again with the best time through there. Gidley quick too. Ferrari maybe not quite as stout as some of the other makes, although keep in mind, Davis has been in traffic, so we might not have seen the full potential out of that car. And now into sector 3. Tight and twisty, very technical. Rothberg, the leader, best through that part of the racetrack. Not far behind, though, Kyle Washington.
See the gap up front. Gidley has kind of stabilized that. Seemed like Rothberg's car came to life very, very quickly. We sometimes see that with a Ski Autosport team in terms of they'll either set the car up like wanting to get out front early, maybe start the tire press a little bit higher so you get that grip level immediately, and other times they'll have a strategy where they allow the car to come in and be really strong mid-race. It certainly seems that after 3 or 4 laps, Gidley started to stabilize that gap. I hear in the backdrop, there's some problems there. Schwest and Davis, did they get together in the brake zone for turn 5? This is what Washington is hoping for, that one of these cars gets stuck and there's a yellow come out.
Looks like Davis will be able to drive out of the gravel trap, but it's cost him a ton of time. Siddiqui is through. Schwest still trying to get pointed in the right direction. It is all well with that Ferrari. Gravel being brought back out onto the racetrack. I don't know that Davis's car is all okay. He's very slow getting back up to speed as Schwest has gone back by.
Here comes Washington. You'll see the aftermath. He's now driving on those rocks as he accelerates off of turn 5.
Now, not quite the help he needed to get back into this race after the early off packed the radiator with grass and forced him to the pit lane. Here's a look at what happened possibly at the tail end of it. Both cars end up in the gravel trap, and that lets Cortez on through. Joel Cortez now finds himself in 3rd.
Yeah, one would assume, we got to that a little bit late, but one would assume that Davis was trying to make a move on Schwest, and one was at fault there in terms of a little bit of contact potentially. But I don't know what they're doing, the gravel traps there, but I like them. They arrest the speed, but still allow you to get out. It just doesn't bury the car. And there's the damage. There's the culprit, I would say, looking at the nose of that Ferrari. I think he must have just run over Ross Schwest there into that brake zone.
Here comes Davis into the pits. The crew will take a look. Now, this Ferrari 296, it was designed for a quick repair with a front and rear clip, effectively, that bolts on and off very, very quickly. This incident, by the way, is under review.
Yeah, I don't know whether Schwest moved under braking or just Davis just got it a little bit wrong. It's heavy brake zone, you're cresting the hill, you're right up behind another car. That takes away a little bit of the downforce as well. If that driver in front of you over brakes or brakes a little bit more suddenly than you think, you can maybe get into the ABS, and then that takes over, taking the braking force away from you.
That has implications in that battle for 3rd in points between Gidley and Schwest. Schwest had started to build a bit of a cushion again with his wins in the last 2 races, but now finds himself back in 5th, whereas Gidley runs in a solid 2nd.
Yeah, they came into this race today. I mean, 9 points separating the two, so we're looking, what, 8-point swing at the moment. Fantastic circuit. It is immaculate. We talk about it being the Augusta of motor racing, not just because of the beautiful conditioning and the pristine grounds that we run through here, but also the racetrack itself is much like a very hard golf course. You got to set up the holes. You have to set up the corners here as well, and positioning is everything.
It's a real challenge, no question about it. The drivers really enjoy driving this place because of the challenge that it presents. Tough place to race sometimes, but it can be done, as we've seen.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. The talk coming in is a great racetrack, but hard to pass. But the races yesterday, all of them across all of the classes, were simply spectacular. So the drivers are finding a way to make some moves around here. And I think because there's some really tricky corners where you're floating the car up into like turns 14, 15, 16, for example. The ideal line leaves the inside open down into the last corner. You're wide open as you swing out wide to really maximize that radius, and there we can see some damage there. I think that rear diffuser must have taken a pretty good pop there, and they got to be careful here. This could turn into a fire here if that diffuser is pushed down on the exhaust.
Tony Davis has been given a drive-through penalty for incident responsibility. Race control has evidently seen enough to make that ruling.
Yeah, I think if I'm this team, I would be wanting to bring that car in and have a look, because there's fire going on there. That is not good news.
No. Could easily do more damage as well.
Yeah, I just got a feeling that that diffuser has got dislodged there and is down on an exhaust tailpipe there, and it's creating a big problem. I'd be getting that car back to pit lane as soon as possible, or pulling off to a fire station.
Unfortunately, I think it started up right as Ross was coming by pit entry. And the call perhaps wasn't possible to make it in time to get him in on that lap. I'd love to get it to the pits, but sometimes just getting it to a safe area where the safety workers can extinguish the fire might be the better play long term.
Yeah, that's getting up into the engine bay as well. This is not good.
It's not extinguishing, that's for sure. Not much further to go, I suppose.
Got to be careful too, and suddenly getting the brake lines and stuff like that. I mean, they're braided lines, so they're not just going to melt, but fire is never good in a race car. See if he hits it pit lane. Yes, he does.
It's getting bigger
It's
as
getting
well.
really big, yeah. They need
Yikes.
to be at the ready here. Be stopping away from any fuel tanks that are down there as well.
Well, Ross Schwest does bring the car to a halt. There's the crew quickly to extinguish the fire. They'll get Ross out of the car as well. Scary stuff anytime there's fire involved. And really frustrating into what had started off as a very promising weekend for Ross. That's promoted Kyle Washington up to 5th now.
Here comes Davis to serve that penalty. Meanwhile, up front, talk about Rothberg hanging on right now for the championship. Well, he's certainly making a statement here today. He's driven off to an almost 5-second lead here, so seems like they've found the sweet spot in this chassis.
Definitely, which bodes well for what's to come this afternoon in GT World Challenge. What a stint yesterday from Robbie Foley to drag that car up for a win, despite some handicaps that they're dealing with from a regulation standpoint.
Yeah, it's a great win for them. It really gives them a solid point spread going into 75 points left. Sprint race here this afternoon for GT World Challenge America, then the 8 hour, which is a double pointer at Indianapolis. But certainly Rothberg's in great shape in both championships right now.
Yeah, he is. Came so close to winning here in GT America last year. Did win in GT World Challenge. I think of the two, he would have been more expecting the chance to win in GT America last year going into the finale at Indianapolis. The story I remember hearing, though, was that they didn't expect to win any title, and he hadn't packed a suit or anything to go to the banquet. They found themselves as the champions in GT World Challenge Pro-Am and had to go do some shopping before the banquet on Sunday night.
As I recall, I'm not sure he found a black tie, did he?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Gidley here, just what a great story this is, coming back from severe injuries over a decade ago now, and he's just found a great home here. He's such a fun guy, loves his racing, so much passion, just like the guy who the seat he took over from, Johnny O'Connell. I mean, they both just absolutely still live it and breathe it, want to be in a race car forever, and can still perform at the highest level.
Drive-through penalty for a pit lane speed violation. Actually, a stop-and-go penalty here for Tony Davis. So the day gets a little bit worse. But back to Memo Gidley, the interesting thing is he was the rival, the title rival to Johnny O'Connell when Johnny was driving for Ski Autosports a few years ago. And then after a year out, when the seat opened up, the ski team quickly called up their former rival and threw him in the seat for this year, and as he's repaid them handsomely.
Yeah, there's the aftermath there. Fire extinguisher makes a bit of a mess for these mechanics to get that cleaned up and looking pristine once again.
And that team also still has another car to get prepped for GT World Challenge. They had a lot of work to do to repair that car after a small incident yesterday. Not as much damage as they feared initially, but it's a busy time for a race team when you're running 2 programs here on a weekend.
Watching Justin's line there through 15 and 16, he plays it real conservative. He doesn't float that high line up and try and swing it back down, just keeps it nice and neat and tidy, a little bit tighter through those 2 corners, and you're less likely to make a mistake by that. So I like this line that he's adopting here with a healthy lead.
And we'll watch him. But as we do, let's hear from Ross Schwest. First of all, Amanda, happy Ross is doing all right. That had to be a scary moment with the fire behind him.
Absolutely. We did ask if he needed to go to medical just to make sure as he jumped out of that Corvette pretty fast. And Ross, when did you know that you had an issue?
I'm sorry.
When did you know there was an issue?
On that last lap when I came in, my team came on the radio and said to come in, and then I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw smoke. So I asked what happened. They said when I got rear-ended that, the exhaust was rubbing against the car. So it's never a good feeling looking back and seeing smoke with half a lap left. But the main thing is I'm safe and everyone else is safe. So
I'm happy to say that we will see you in World Challenge later here today. Mentally, how do you adjust back?
Oh, I think it's not that difficult. Each race, each corner at a time,
Calvin, you race car drivers are crazy.
Well, we love to race, and the nice thing is with double-header weekends, and for certain drivers, obviously, in our paddock doing 2 different championships, you don't have to reflect for long. You can just focus forward and get ready for another green flag.
Unfortunately, snaps a streak of 3 straight podiums, and 4 in the last 5 races for Ross West, including those back-to-back wins that had elevated him to 3rd in points. But he'll regroup and get ready for GT World Challenge later today. Here's Joel Cortez, who has survived the mayhem and actually is lapping at a pretty good clip. His best lap time, just 0.8 of a second off of what Justin Rothberg has done, and within half a second of what Memo Gidley has done. Finds himself in a really solid 3rd place.
Yeah, he's looking really strong. Really strong, but I don't think it's been that straightforward for him. I think we may have caught something that happened here on the last time through the little corkscrew-esque turns 8 and 9. Ooh,
whoa.
Just attacks that a little bit too much, and there's a lot of curb there, and he needed a bit more.
It's such a tough place. A lot of the approaches to these corners are blind, or the camber is changing. Got so much to process, and it comes at you fast without any time to rest and reset hardly.
Oh, he's wide there. He missed his marks completely. That's the highest speed part of the racetrack there, about 145 as you're turning in. And he did a nice job, subtle job of just recovering that. That looked pretty ugly there for a moment. So he's pushing hard. He's got this podium potentially in his hands. He's got a healthy 17-second lead over Siddiqui, who runs in P4, and he's about similar margin to Gidley in front. So I think right now it's just a personal test, just trying to push the envelope a little bit, see what sort of personal sectors he can put together. You need to keep challenging yourself, because there's still 18 minutes on the board, and I find to maintain focus, pushing is a little bit easier than easing off and losing your concentration.
Cortez comes from Porsche Cup racing, has run Porsche Sprint Challenge, partial schedules primarily over the last few years. As we mentioned earlier, did run at Circuit of the Americas in GT America previously this season. Finished 6th in both of those races. Finished 7th yesterday in very difficult conditions. And having a great day, running a solid 3rd. Turning in some good lap times here, just past the halfway mark.
At the end of the day, what's better than driving a GT3 car around a circuit like this in really mild and moderate temperatures here this morning? The car's going to feel a little bit better than it would in extreme heat that we saw here middle of the afternoon yesterday. So this is a fun ride. Enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. The weather certainly has evolved over the weekend. It was super hot and humid on the test day on Thursday. That rolled into Friday. Not quite as hot, but plenty humid yesterday, which led to that brief rain shower. I mean, it couldn't have rained more than 10 or 15 minutes, but it was a hard rain when it came down. That was just before the start of the GT America race, which left the track very, very wet. However, there was no more rain in the forecast, and the sun popped out, which meant it dried fairly quickly. Made for really difficult decision-making for the teams in terms of tire choice.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. It didn't seem like many of the drivers adopted what we call a rain line outside of the normal dry racing line, which is typical at most circuits. You're just looking for the bite and the aggregate. You get off the racing line where the oil is dropped and the surface is more polished. You just look for that bite in the tires. Forget about the theory of how you get through a corner on the correct radius. It's all about grip.
Got to look a moment ago at top speed. The data that the folks at Amazon Web Service collate for us, and Justin Rothberg, as is customary with the BMW, tops that chart. That has traditionally been the strength, whether it's been this M4 GT3 or its predecessor, the M6.
Tell you what, I think Rothberg's performance here is maybe one of the most dominant that we've seen this season. He just really grabbed the bull by the horns, got that pole position with the fast lap yesterday, and he's just raised the bar here today. Gidley about 7 seconds back. Siddiqui's done a nice job. Really good, consistent lap times. He's kind of in a bit of a vacuum here. He's about 13 seconds in front of Washington. Running very similar lap times. Last time through, Siddiqui at 1:25.8 and Washington at 1:25.5. So at that delta, car's not going to catch him.
Tony Davis has put the issues behind him. He just did his best lap of the race the last time by, 24.6, which is pretty much exactly what Justin Rothberg, the race leader, did on the last lap. Here he is. That's even with the wounded car. Amanda said the team felt like the damage was primarily cosmetic, so they elected not to change the bodywork.
Yeah, you don't have many ugly Ferraris.
No. I have to say, I love the look of this 296. I thought its predecessor, the 488, was pretty sharp too, and really wondered could they improve upon that, and really shouldn't have bothered worrying, as it turned out.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
As you said, just the craftsmanship in terms of kind of the modular construction of this car is more like a prototype in terms of being able to take off that complete front clip. That's the issue when you start damaging splitters and stuff like that. They're kind of multiple pieces in the past to put the car back together, which if it have an incident in a race, makes it really tough on the mechanics to do that quickly and efficiently. But if you can just take off a big chunk of the race car and throw a new piece at it, that's the way to go.
Yeah, and it's worth noting this was the first car that Ferrari on the GT side had cooperated with Orica on. Orica for so many years building prototypes, although they do have experience in GT racing. You go back to the Vipers 20 odd years ago, and there's probably other examples of it as well that are escaping me at the moment. But you think about how a lot of the LMP2 cars and even some of the top-level hypercars or GTPs, depending on where you're racing them, are designed. And you do have that modular construction where you can make a change quite quickly.
Curious if you asked a true Italian racing fan what their thoughts were on a Ferrari being built in France.
Yeah. I've often wondered that too. And it's been a bit of a departure too. It's a V6 power plant. The 488, the 458, and the 430 GT cars, the three predecessors were all V8s. So it was quite a change to go to the turbo V6.
He keeps continuing to improve. Davis just did his new personal best, which is exactly mimicking the leader. Rothberg's got to be thinking, what's going on here? I'm about to lap this guy and I can't catch him.
Yeah, goes to show Davis is on the pace. He just did his best lap again at a 24.2. Rothberg also a 24.2. Gidley had been making some inroads, just marginal. 10th of a second here, 10th of a second there, but Rothberg has answered back and now has extended that lead back to 7.5 seconds.
Yeah, look for a moment there, sort of like early parts of the race that Gidley was starting to stabilize that gap, and then my thought was, well, maybe they've got a car that's set up to come in a little bit stronger midway through the race for the second phase, but not been able to do anything with Rothberg today. As I said, I think this has been one of his best performances from a speed perspective here this season. Just really felt like, you know, the last couple of rounds didn't really seem to have that edge that we'd seen certainly at the second half of last year and early stages of this year, and he certainly stepped it up here today.
Well, we talked about it in the context of Kyle Washington, didn't we, as Tony Davis resets the fastest lap of the race at a 23.9. It's really quick. But there was that lengthy summer break. SRO puts in its schedule to allow teams and drivers to participate in the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, the big tentpole event for SRO globally. And that meant that a lot of these folks were out of a race car for over a month. And Rothberg, we've talked about it this year, it's not like they're doing a ton of testing. He did nothing over the off season. So I think he'd be another one where maybe sitting idle for a little while takes a little bit of time to get back in that rhythm again.
Yeah, I think so. I think for Washington, he stays busy. Do you know what I mean? And during the off-season, he came out of the box strong, looked really strong right before the summer break. Then I felt at Road America he wasn't really in his true edgy form. Looks a lot stronger here this weekend. For Rothberg, as you mentioned in that off-season, he never sat in a race car between Indianapolis checkered flag and opening practice at Sonoma. And that is really hard to do. For an experienced driver with a lot more miles and years under their belt, you can deal that a little bit quicker than someone's in their infancy, relatively speaking, with their racing career.
But it's something even the pros talk about. You know, IndyCar's got a very long off season, and those guys, they love to get in a sports car in January just to knock some of the rust off. And those that don't get the chance to do so feel like they're really on the back foot. If it affects drivers like that, then certainly those that aren't doing this full-time year-round, only in the car, and if you're not testing, 7 weekends, 8 weekends a year, now that's going to have an effect.
What do you think I'm going to do in my golf game this week, Ron? I haven't played in 12 weeks.
You'll still do better than I would, I promise you that. Amanda points out, speaking of the IndyCar drivers real quick, one of them that is not ready to go into the offseason just yet is Scott McLaughlin. He'll be racing at Suzuka next weekend in the Intercontinental GT Challenge race.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see some of the guys. We obviously had Alex Palou at the Indy 8 Hour last year. How impressive was that? Just immediately on the pace with the fellow Mercedes drivers who are all factory pilots and drive the cars almost every week, and Alex just rocks up and made a huge statement.
I think Alex is pretty good.
He's not bad, is he?
He might have this figured out.
Mr. Four-time now, joining a very exclusive club. You can use, so you got Mario, Dario, and who else?
As a champion that many times over, AJ Foyt.
Yep.
Sebastian Bourdais is a 4-time IndyCar champ.
That's the one I was thinking of, yeah.
Yep. I haven't done that trivia in a bit, so probably missing something. Apologies for that. I'll be all brushed up on it, though, by the time we get to Indy. That's when you get to break out some Indy-specific trivia. That's the backyard for me, so it is something I look forward to each and every year when all my SRO friends come to my backyard.
Party at Ryan's.
That's right.
Audrey on the game. Baking some cookies and good stuff.
Now, she'll be out of town, so...
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it'll really be a wild party.
I'm not sure we need to rely on your cooking skills.
Yeah, that's no good.
A bit sketchy.
Tony Davis currently 2 laps down, but turning in some great laps. Again, that was a 124 flat the last time by. Amazing.
Yeah, car looks really good. You talk about that cosmetic damage on the front. It's always amazing. Sometimes you can see a car and it's all busted up and start setting its fastest laps of the weekend like we just saw from Tony there. So makes you wonder about the wind tunnels and all the aero effects.
All right, Siddiqui is getting more and more comfortable as well as the weekend goes along. He did his best lap of the race the last time by, the 24.7.
That's really strong. I've been really impressed with him since we saw him turn his attention to this GT3 car. Seems to really fit his style. And learning. He misses the odd corner now and again, but I think he's just exploring the limits.
Lives in Tampa, Florida. We've seen him in GT4 competition, done some MX5 Cup. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, he did the Win MX5 Cup win and ran on the Martinsville Oval last year as an exhibition. I believe he was in that field. My notes say he finished 14th. Would have been a cool experience, and nice that they're going to do that again this year. I think it'll be on a NASCAR weekend.
I think when you see something like that or observe, one of your notes, Ryan, it really, I think, is a great insight to what the driver's all about. He just wants to explore and do fun stuff out of the box a little bit.
That was a really fun race. I enjoyed watching that one last year. Makes you wonder what a GT4 or a GT3 car would look like on a short oval.
I raced race trucks on an oval a couple of times.
That's true.
Yeah, that was fun. Raced at Milwaukee, I think IRP, maybe Nashville or somewhere, as I recall. It's good.
And some open wheel oval cars too, right?
Little
Indy
bit.
Lights.
Yeah, Indy Lights. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the high-speed stuff. We ran at Pocono. It was the highest speed oval that we ran on. That was an eye-opener.
I'm sure it was.
Really fun.
Back to Joel Cortez. Sits third a distant third, 31 seconds adrift, but again, in a nice rhythm here, not under any pressure, just exploring and enjoying the opportunity to drive this great racetrack.
For his line there down into turn 5, he kind of turns in a little bit early rather than kind of a straight line break and carve the corner a little bit later. Seems to be really consistent with it there, doesn't really seem to get any lockups, which is a good thing.
Amanda letting me know, we were talking about drivers trying different things. Apparently Justin Rothberg's going to do an ARCA race later this year. Dip his toes in the stock car waters. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know he's been thinking about that. I was chatting to Robbie Foley about it, and he said, yeah, Justin's thinking about trying some new stuff, but yet to be confirmed. So I didn't realize that was going to happen this season. Why not? Give it a try, see if it suits.
I mean, he's proven to be a quick study in everything we've seen him in, making that jump from Ferrari Challenge into the GT3 car last year, and took him a weekend or two, but pretty quickly the switch flipped, the light went on, right, and he was on the pace. Now that was a little odd.
Yeah, do you see the movement there in the car? Like he was feeling something out. Not sure if he's just feeling something adrift, and on that little straightaway just moved the car around to see if he could get a little bit more feedback from it. He does not need any technical issues the way things are stacking up for him championship-wise. Big day, big weekend for him here.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should go back to that conversation. We talked about it a lot early on, but with Kyle Washington stuck down in 5th, he just did his best lap of the race. It has to be so frustrating to have a fast car. I mean, that is the best lap of the race for Kyle Washington at a 23.8. So he's got the fastest car right now, but the one little mistake, it doesn't take much, ended up off track, packed the radiator grill with grass, and that caused him to make that unscheduled pit stop. Thanks to some misfortune for Davis and Schwest, he's picked up a few spots to get to 5th at least, but this looks like he's going to lose a lot of ground in the championship with only 2 races to go.
Yeah, that fast lap this late in the day is really an indicator that he's starting to feel it again. Do you know what I mean? He's just letting it flow a little bit more. Sometimes when you try extra hard, you're overdriving, you're overslowing, you're just not into that rhythm that you really need around a circuit like this. So this car's been really quick. They're sharing the same chassis actually in GT World Challenge America, and Sargent has been absolutely flying in this race car this weekend. So I think Kyle's got all of the tools available to him, and he's certainly making it show right now. I mean, you think about what ifs. He just laid down a 23.8, a couple of tenths quicker than Rothberg, who's leading handily.
This could be an even better lap the way it's shaping up. Yeah, how about a 23.5?
Yeah.
Wow.
He just looks so good. Down through the museum turn, you could just see he was just letting the car flow through there, not abrupt and getting all ugly at the exit like we saw yesterday. That was just a beautiful execution of that sector. So give him a lot of confidence for this afternoon, but it's not going to be happy in terms of the championship potential going into Indy in this championship.
Let's hear more about Kyle Washington. What have you heard, Amanda?
I'm sitting next to GMG, and they are just absolutely giggling over here at Kyle Washington's performance. James Safronis just threw his hands in the air and said, how does he do that? I can see Tom Sargent over there as well, just with a big smile on his face. So maybe Kyle's just getting ready for GT World Challenge later, guys.
I mean, might as well if you're going to try and make, eliminate out of these lemons. He's still pushing. That was a ton of opposite lock for Kyle Washington there. But he's got an off-road background, so
yep,
car jumping sideways on him is something he's probably more comfortable with than most.
I don't think he's intimidated by much.
No.
And if you think about when he laid down that fast lap of the race 38 minutes in, well, maybe he just needs to go up 38 minutes earlier in the morning and it'd be in his sweet spot.
Maybe so. He comes by. This lap won't be an improvement on his personal best, but it's still in the 23s. 23.9. That's 2 seconds faster than the leader is running right now. Admittedly, Justin's got nothing to prove with an 8-second lead, nearly a 9-second lead. So he's probably just taking care of the car. But yeah, goes to show just how quick this Porsche is laid in the going. It'll be the white flag this time for Justin Rothberg, who's looking to secure another win and edge that much closer to an SRO 3 championship.
Yeah, it's really been a dominant performance. Just great job by Turner Motorsports in turning out 2 really fast race cars for Justin Rothberg. He'll share the other car, obviously, with Robbie Foley a little bit later in the day, but leading both championships. Big year for Justin here, 2025.
Definitely. Still has some work to do. And Indianapolis, it's not done yet, but with the lead he has built, it is conceivable he could clinch the SRO 3 title with a race to go, just with a decent finish in race 1 at Indy.
You could see there on the entry to turn 5, very different approach to that corner to what we were noticing with Cortez. Notice that Cortez was coming in kind of shallow and bringing the car in early. Rothberg kind of does that more traditional straight line braking, late turn, just try and carve the corner and focus on getting your hands straight and power down.
Another star in the making coming through the Turner Motorsport pipeline. Justin Rothberg, former Ferrari Challenge champion, GT World Challenge America Pro-Am champ a year ago, narrowly denied the title in GT America last year. But with his 6th win of 2025, he is that much closer to taking his first title in GT America. There's the checkered flag for Justin Rothberg at Turner Motorsport, his 6th victory of the campaign.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was perfect.
Domination from Rothberg. Gidley comes across the line 9 seconds back, secures 2nd place. That should bring him within a point of 3rd.
What did Johnny O used to call him? The kid, right?
He did.
Not sure he's a kid anymore.
Doesn't drive like one. Joel Cortez, his first podium in GT America. Great run to 3rd place today. Congratulations to Joel and the RS1 team, which now can turn its focus to Alex Sedgwick and Jan Halen, who will be racing a GT World Challenge later this afternoon. Farhan Siddiqui finishes in 4th. Kyle Washington nearly caught him, but didn't have quite enough time. He'll come home 5th for Siddiqui. That matches his best result of the season. A couple of 4th places at Road America.
I think for a couple of the drivers there, Washington and Davis, with their laps in their 123 range, they got to be thinking, if I just executed a little bit better, could have certainly been fighting for a podium, if not more.
This is another driver that probably feels that way, if not for a miscue or 2. Had some really fast laps. Tony Davis. An up and down debut, but with a lot of positives to take away for HB Tech Motorsport. Hope to see a whole lot more of them. Not just this year, but in the years to come. That team has aspirations of being full-time next year, possibly in GT America, possibly GT World Challenge, possibly further afield, but it seems likely that somewhere in the SRO America landscape is where they will set up shop, and we look forward to it. A team that has had so much success in Ferrari Challenge over the years, making that next step, which they've been preparing for a long time. Rothberg will celebrate another win and edge closer to the championship. 9.1 seconds. Final analysis was the gap 1st to 2nd ahead of Memo Gidley. Joel Cortez comes home in 3rd, then Farhan Siddiqui 4th place. Kyle Washington rallies to get 5th, but drops considerably in the championship hunt. Davis, Schwest, and Jason Bell did not take the start here today, credited with 8th, but will not score points. So Rothberg heads to Indy in control, polar opposite of the way that he left this race last year. Remember, had a 5th place in race 2, which left him having to scramble at Indy to stay in the championship mix. He very nearly overcame it, but won't have to worry about trying to overcome much of anything in the final 2 races.
Unofficially, it's a 37-point lead heading to Indy, so you know, just 2 finishes really would get the job done.
2 starts.
Yeah.
Effectively. Woo. Love that helmet as well for Justin. That's been super cool over the years. He'll take a lot of confidence, I'm sure, out of this win and apply it then to GT World Challenge, which is coming up this afternoon. But a big result for him in a number of ways, getting the seat time, getting closer to this championship, and then in preparation for the big race in the afternoon. Memo Gidley sharing a hug with the Ski Autosport team. He comes home second today to Justin Rothberg, who's with Amanda.
Hey, Justin, and yeah, I just want to relay to you that Calvin and Ryan were just talking about what a drive you've had here this weekend, maybe your best performance of the weekend so far. You now have a 37-point lead headed into Indianapolis. What groove did you find yourself in this morning?
The car felt really good. We had some understeer problems yesterday, and the Turner guys totally took care of that. The car felt really good into and up the back hill, so that was really my biggest issue. That was gone, so I just had to put my head down, do my job, and hit my marks.
How comfortable have you gotten with telling the team what you need out of the race car?
Repeat that?
How comfortable have you gotten with telling the team what you need out of the race car?
I'm getting better, but it really helps to have Robbie here. He knows this thing like the back of his hand. But I'm getting there. I just try to learn from him and repeat what he says.
All right, GT World Challenge, look out.
Indeed. Yesterday's any indication, they are loaded for bear. We'll look forward to watching that coming up this afternoon. We talked about the point situation, and here it is, replaying for you. Rothberg's lead has ballooned after a disappointing day for Kyle Washington. Memo Gidley does jump Raj Schwest by a single point up into third. That will be really close, though, that fight over the final two races of the season. Top three, though, Rothberg, Washington, and Gidley heading into the finale. Final race of the weekend for GT America, powered by AWS. It was Justin Rothberg on pole. He was able to consolidate that lead, never was challenged. Kyle Washington trying to keep him honest in the early going, picks up a bunch of grass on the grill. That forced him to the pit lane and well down the order. Good battle in the early going between Ross Schwest and Tony Davis, but it would end in tears for both. More on that in a moment as Memo Gidley chased down Rothberg in the early stages. Justin, though, in firm control, really on cruise control in the latter portions of the race. Contact between Davis and Schwest meant that some of the bodywork in the Corvette ended up in contact with the exhaust that lit some of that bodywork on fire, and Ross Schwest's day was done. After a couple of penalties, Davis was able to continue on with a wounded car and did set the fastest lap of the race. Joel Cortez had a nice cruise today, but no one could trouble Justin Rothberg, who now has firm control of the championship headed to Indy.